It still remembers.
In a town where every hour repeats itself, the clock tower still ticks, even when no one winds it anymore. Its heartbeat glows red behind cracked glass, echoing through empty streets that remember more than they should. When a widowed clockmaker begins hearing voices whispering between the chimes, she learns that time itself may be grieving. But if the clock has a heart, who does it still beat for? Let's find out in the heart of the clock.
The relentless fog clung to the narrow streets of the seaside town like a shroud, muffling the footsteps of those who gathered at the small chapel on the edge of the cliffs. Eleanor Muir stood apart from the cluster of mourners, her figure slender and somber in the heavy black dress that swallowed her slight frame. The salt-tinged air was thick with mist and sorrow, and the distant cry of a foghorn seemed to echo the hollow H within her chest. She clutched a faded handkerchief, the delicate lace edges worn and familiar, a remnant of a gentler time. The minister's solemn voice drifted through the haze, speaking words that felt distant and hollow. For Eleanor's mind was adrift in the cold silence left by Henry's sudden absence. The clockmaker, so meticulous and reserved, was now nothing more than a shadow in the town's memory. The days that followed were a blur of whispered condolences and mechanical formalities. Eleanor moved through them like a ghost, arranging the funeral with a detached precision that belied the turmoil roiling beneath her composed exterior. Henry's family home, once a sanctuary of quiet rhythms and the steady ticking of countless clocks, now felt cavernous and empty as if time itself had halted. When the funeral was over, Eleanor found herself standing before the door of the clock shop for the first time since Henry's passing. The sign above, painted in fading gold letters, read H. Mayer, clockmaker. The shop windows, fogged and dusted with sea salt, revealed shadowy shapes of clocks frozen in mid-tick. She hesitated, her hand resting lightly on the brass doorknob, the cool metal grounding her wavering resolve. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged wood, oil and metal, a scent that stirred a bittersweet ache within her. The soft symphony of ticking filled the room, a chorus of life that Henry had tended to with quiet devotion. Eleanor's eyes traced the countless faces of clocks, their hands frozen in various moments, as if time itself lingered in the air. Her fingers brushed the worn surface of a workbench cluttered with tiny gears and delicate springs. Among the scattered tools lay Henry's journals, their leather covers cracked and softened by years of use. She opened one, revealing pages filled with precise sketches and cryptic notes in Henry's careful hand. Each line seemed to whisper secrets just beyond her grasp. Night fell quickly in the town, and the fog seeped through the cracks in the windows, wrapping the clock shop in a quiet gloom. Alone, Eleanor lit a single oil lamp, its flame dancing shadows across the walls lined with ticking timepieces. The silence was profound, broken only by the steady tick-tock that seemed to echo the beating of her own heart. Compelled by a mixture of grief and curiosity, Eleanor's gaze drifted toward the floorboards beneath the workbench. Something about the uneven planks caught her eye, a faint outline of a seam she had never noticed before. Her breath caught as she knelt, the worn wood creaking softly beneath her hands. Fingers trembling, she pressed along the edge until a small latch gave way with a soft click. With a careful lift, a hidden compartment was revealed, nestled beneath the floor. Inside lay a collection of intricate gears and an unfinished mechanism unlike any clock Eleanor had ever seen. The brass components gleamed faintly in the lamplight, the design bewildering yet mesmerizing. It was a device that seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, as if it held the impossible promise of bending time itself. Her fingers hovered over the delicate mechanism, a mixture of awe and apprehension swirling within her. What had Henry been attempting? What secret had he buried beneath the floorboards, hidden from the world and even from her? In the days that followed, Eleanor found herself returning to the shop, drawn by the silent call of the clockmaker's legacy. She pored over the scattered journals and sketches, piecing together fragments of Henry's work and the secrets he had kept. Each page revealed a man burdened by regrets and a longing to undo the past. At the same time, the townspeople's whispers grew louder. Some eyed the clock shop with suspicion, others with thinly veiled curiosity. Among them, the kindly herbalist Agatha Finch offered quiet support, her sharp eyes and gentle voice a balm to Eleanor's restless spirit. Agatha hinted at the dangers of meddling with forces beyond understanding, urging caution while respecting Eleanor's resolve. Night after night, Eleanor sat surrounded by ticking clocks and yellowed pages, her mind a tempest of grief, hope, and growing determination. The mechanism beneath the floorboard was no ordinary invention. It was a key to something profound and terrifying. And with every tick of the countless clocks around her, Eleanor felt the fragile thread of time pulling her ever deeper into a mystery that would challenge everything she thought she knew about love, loss, and the relentless passage of time. As the clock struck midnight, Eleanor's gaze lingered on the hidden mechanism one last time. The fog outside thickened, swirling against the windows like a living thing, and the distant sound of a bell tolled through the town. Somewhere, time was waiting to be rewritten, but at what cost? And so, in the shadowed silence of the clock shop, Eleanor's journey began. The air in the clock shop was heavy with the scent of oil and aged wood, mingled with a faint trace of Henry's cologne that Eleanor could still imagine lingering in the shadows. She sat alone at the worn wooden table, the flickering flame of a single candle casting long, wavering shadows across the scattered pages of Henry's journals. They were bound in cracked leather, the edges yellowed and fragile, as if the very passage of time had tried to reach in and capture their secrets. Eleanor's fingers trembled slightly as she turned the brittle pages, revealing sketches of intricate gears, cryptic annotations, and fragments of thoughts penned in Henry's meticulous hand. Each page was a window into his mind, a place where the reclusive clockmaker's passion and torment intertwined. Eleanor recognized the delicate precision of his craft in the drawings, a labyrinth of wheels and springs, each part designed to fit perfectly into an impossible whole. Yet beneath the technical mastery lay something else, a restless urgency, a desperate hope that shimmered between the lines. As she traced the fine ink strokes, Eleanor's thoughts drifted back to the years they had shared. Henry had always been a man of few words, his emotions carefully guarded behind a mask of quiet diligence. Their love had been tender but shadowed by his reserve, a delicate dance of intimacy and distance. She remembered the evenings when he would sit in the dim light of the workshop, absorbed in his work, his brow furrowed as if wrestling with some unseen adversary. She had often wondered what burden weighed so heavily on his soul. Now, reading his journals, the pieces began to fall into place. There were references to a second chance and rewinding the clock, cryptic notes that hinted at a device not merely meant to mark time, but to reverse it. Eleanor's heart clenched at the thought had Henry sought to undo a mistake too painful to speak of. Was this mechanism born from a grief he had hidden even from her? Her fingers paused over a faded sketch of the mechanism's core, a delicate assembly of gears, cogs, and levers unlike any clock she had ever seen. It was unfinished, incomplete, yet imbued with a strange power that seemed to pulse beneath the ink. Eleanor felt a shiver run down her spine, a mixture of awe and dread. The quiet was shattered by a cautious knock at the shop's door. Eleanor looked up, startled, as the door creaked open to reveal Agatha Finch, the town's herbalist and one of the few people who had offered her kindness since Henry's death. Agatha's silver hair caught the candlelight, her sharp eyes softening as she stepped inside, carrying a small basket of herbs. "I thought you might need this," Agatha said gently, setting the basket on the table. Grief weighs heavy, and the nights grow cold and restless. Eleanor offered a faint smile, grateful for the company. "Thank you, Agatha. I've found something in Henry's journals, something I don't fully understand. The herbalist settled into a worn armchair, folding her shawl around her shoulders. Henry was a man of secrets, she said quietly, and some secrets are better left undisturbed. Eleanor's eyes met Agatha's, searching for answers. But if there's a chance to change what's broken, to fix the past, should I not try? Agatha's gaze grew wary. Power over time is a dangerous thing, Eleanor. It tempts the heart with hope, but exacts a price none can foresee. The town whispers of the clockmaker's work, fear and suspicion weave through the fog like a living thing. The weight of her words settled heavily upon Eleanor's shoulders. She thought of the hushed conversations she had overheard, the sidelong glances cast her way. The clock shop, once a place of quiet craft, had become a beacon for curiosity and dread alike. Yet beneath the rising tide of fear, a spark of determination kindled within Eleanor. She could not turn away, not while the truth waited in the pages before her, and in the ticking heart of the unfinished mechanism hidden beneath the floorboards. If Henry had dared to dream of turning back time, then perhaps she could find the courage to uncover the secrets he left behind. In the days that followed, Eleanor devoted herself to deciphering Henry's notes. She studied the sketches with Thomas Gray, the young apprentice clockmaker whose earnestness and youthful hope offered a fragile balm to her grief. Together they worked to understand the mechanism's purpose and potential, their evenings filled with the soft clinking of tools and whispered theories. But as Eleanor delved deeper, the shadows in the town grew longer. Whispers of the clockmaker's invention stirred unease among the townspeople, and Eleanor could sense unseen eyes watching her every move. The weight of Henry's legacy was heavier than she had imagined, and the path ahead was fraught with peril. At night, when the fog pressed thick against the windows and the clocks ticked relentlessly onward, Eleanor wrestled with the choice before her: to seek the impossible, to reclaim lost moments and mend the fractures of the past, or to accept the cruel, unyielding flow of time. The gears of memory turned within her mind, each tick a reminder that some secrets, once uncovered, cannot be forgotten. As the chapter closes, Eleanor stands at the threshold of discovery and danger, her heart both burdened and resolute. The mechanism waits, silent and incomplete, a testament to a love and grief that transcends the bounds of time. And in the quiet ticking of the clocks, the question remains: what price will she pay to turn back the hands of fate? The fog lay thick and unyielding over the town as Eleanor made her way back to the clock shop. The familiar creak of the wooden sign swinging in the chill wind greeting her like an old, whispered secret. The day's grey light had already begun to wane, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the narrow cobblestone streets. Her heart was heavy, tangled with the weight of grief and the restless questions that Henry's mysterious device had stirred within her. Inside the shop, the air was dense with the scent of oil and aged wood, a tangible memory of the countless hours Henry had spent among his gears and springs. Eleanor moved quietly, the soft click of her boots against the floorboards the only sound beyond the steady tick-tock of clocks lining every wall. She climbed cautiously to the upper storage room, a place Henry had often retreated to in his final months, a sanctuary cluttered with boxes, sketches, and relics of a life largely hidden from the world. Drawn to a small, dust-covered wooden chest tucked beneath a rickety workbench, Eleanor knelt and lifted its creaking lid. Inside lay a collection of personal items, faded photographs, brittle letters tied together with a fraying ribbon, and a worn leather-bound journal. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the letters, unfolding one carefully beneath the flicker of a single candle she had lit earlier. The handwriting was delicate yet hurried, ink faded to a soft sepia tone. The letter spoke of love and loss, of promises made beneath moonlit skies and dreams shattered by fate. Eleanor's eyes widened as she recognized the name signed at the bottom: Isabel. The same name whispered among the town's old tales. a woman who had vanished mysteriously years before Henry and Elena's marriage. Her breath caught as she traced the words, feeling the weight of a story that Henry had never shared. These letters were a window into a past shrouded in sorrow, a secret love that had driven him to the brink of obsession. The presence of Isabel's photographs, a young woman with eyes full of hope and a smile touched by sadness, made Eleanor's heart ache with unfamiliar sympathy. The next day, as the fog curled like smoke through the streets, Eleanor found herself joined by a new presence in the clock shop. Thomas Gray, a young apprentice known to the townsfolk as earnest but somewhat nerveux, had come seeking work. His family's history was intertwined with Henry's, though recent tragedies had left the young man sidelined and uncertain of his future. Thomas approached hesitantly, his tousled brown hair falling over earnest eyes that gleamed with quiet determination. "Miss Muir," he said softly, "I heard about your loss, and I want to help. I know a bit about clocks, and perhaps together we can understand your husband's work better." Eleanor studied him for a moment, the loneliness of the shop suddenly less oppressive with another's company. "Thank you, Thomas," she replied, a fragile hope stirring within her. "Your help means more than you know." Together, they set to work, sifting through Henry's sketches, notes, and the scattered parts of the mysterious mechanism. The hours slipped by unnoticed, punctuated only by the rhythmic ticking that filled the room like a heartbeat. Thomas's youthful enthusiasm breathed life into the quiet space, and Alina found herself sharing stories of Henry, his brilliance, his struggles, and now, the shadow cast by Isabel's memory. But the town beyond the shop's wooden walls was less forgiving. Word of Eleanor's discovery spread like wildfire, and not all tales were kind. Reverend Samuel Harrow, the town's preacher, summoned Elena to the chapel one bleak afternoon. The stone walls loomed cold and austere as she entered, the heavy scent of candle wax and old wood pressing upon her senses. Reverend Harrow's face was grave, his eyes sharp beneath furrowed brows. "Mrs. Muir," he began, voice low and resolute, "I must implore you to cease this dangerous pursuit. There are forces at work here, forces that mortal men were never meant to challenge. Your husband's inventions, these devices, they tread perilously close to tampering with the natural order." Eleanor met his gaze steadily, the fire of her resolve kindling within. "I seek only to understand, Reverend, to find truth and perhaps some measure of peace." He shook his head slowly, the lines of worry deepening. "Peace comes not from defying time, but from accepting its passage. Beware the cost you may pay." Leaving the chapel, Eleanor felt the heavy weight of his warning settle alongside her own fears. Yet the whispers of the past, and the promise held within Henry's device, beckoned her onward. In the quiet hours of night, back in the shop, Eleanor and Thomas worked side by side. The fading glow of lamplight cast long shadows across the floor, dancing in time with the ticking clocks that surrounded them. Thomas traced the delicate gears and intricate components, offering insights that helped Eleanor see the mechanism anew. "It's more than a clock," Thomas murmured, eyes wide with wonder. "It's a machine meant to reach beyond the present, to touch what has already passed." Eleanor nodded, the truth settling like a stone in her chest. Henry's lost love, Isabel. I think this device was his way of trying to bring her back, or at least to rewrite the past. The thought was both heartbreaking and terrifying. To dare to alter time itself was to challenge the very fabric of reality, yet it was also a testament to a love so profound it defied the boundaries of life and death. As the night deepened, Eleanor's fingers brushed over the letters once more, her mind racing with questions. What had become of Isabel? Why had Henry kept her memory so closely guarded? And what price would be paid for seeking to recapture moments lost forever? A faint chime echoed through the shop, the bell above the door tinkling softly, breaking the fragile silence. Eleanor looked up, heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and dread. The path ahead was uncertain, shadowed with danger and revelation. But beneath the weight of grief and the chill of fog, a quiet determination flickered. Eleanor was no longer just a widow mourning a lost husband. She was a seeker of truths hidden deep within the ticking heart of time itself. And with Thomas by her side, the echoes of the past began to speak once more. The end of this chapter left Elena standing at a threshold, the fragile threads of memory and reality poised to unravel. What secrets lay ahead, and what dangers would the unfolding mystery bring? The ticking clocks whispered on, relentless and unyielding, as the fog outside thickened, once more hiding truths yet to be revealed. The fog hung thick and unyielding over the seaside town, curling around the narrow cobbled streets like a living thing, obscuring the gas lamps' flickering glow and swallowing the sounds of distant waves crashing against the cliffs. Eleanor Muir wrapped her shawl tighter about her shoulders as she approached the clock shop, the familiar scent of oil and aged wood drifting through the cracked door. Yet tonight the atmosphere felt different, heavier, as if the very air carried whispers and watchful eyes. Inside, the myriad clocks ticked in a cacophonous symphony, their steady rhythm both comforting and disquieting. Eleanor's gaze darted to the shadows cast by the countless gears and pendulums, imagining shapes lurking just beyond sight. She sensed it, an unseen presence, a weight pressing against her resolve. The discovery of the time-rewinding mechanism had ignited a flame of hope within her, yet now that flame flickered precariously in the gathering darkness. Days earlier, rumors began to seep through the town's tight-lipped community. Whispers of the clockmaker's secret inventions spread like wildfire, carried on the tongues of curious onlookers and fearful skeptics alike. Some spoke with reverence, others with suspicion bordering on dread. Among the murmurs, one name surfaced repeatedly: Mr. Gideon Blackwell. Blackwell was no stranger to Eleanor. Once a promising inventor rivaling Henry in both skill and ambition, his fall from grace was the subject of town gossip and veiled disdain. Now, cloaked in dark Victorian finery and bearing the cold glint of piercing eyes, he cast a long shadow over the town. His interest in the mechanism was no longer concealed. Eleanor had glimpsed him, a tall figure standing just beyond the mist, watching, waiting. That evening, seeking counsel, Eleanor found herself crossing the threshold of Agatha Finch's humble cottage. The herbalist's home was a sanctuary of earthy scents and quiet wisdom, the walls lined with jars of herbs and dried flowers. Agatha's silver hair framed a face etched with lines born of laughter and hardship, her sharp eyes reflecting a wisdom that seemed to pierce the veil between the natural and the arcane. "Eleanor, child," Agatha began, her voice low and steady, "the clockmaker's gift is a tangled thing. Time is no mere thread to be pulled at whim. It is a tapestry woven by forces beyond our grasp. To tamper with it invites shadows that reach far deeper than grief." Eleanor listened intently, the weight of Agatha's words settling uneasily in her chest. But if there's a chance to undo loss, to reclaim what's gone, how can one resist? Agatha's gaze softened, though her warning remained firm. Because some things lost are meant to stay lost. To chase them is to invite ruin. The next day at the inn, Eleanor sought information among the familiar faces and whispered gossip. Martha Collins, the innkeeper, leaned close over a steaming cup of tea, her keen eyes flicking nervously to the door. "Ma!" "Blackwell's been asking questions, more than just idle ones," Martha confided. "He's got men in the shadows, and they were not here for a friendly chat. You'd best be careful, Eleanor." The warmth of the hearth contrasted sharply with the chill creeping into Eleanor's bones. The town's protective veil was thinning, and with it, the fragile safety she had tried to cling to. As twilight rolled into night, Eleanor lingered near the clock shop, the fog thickening until shapes blurred and sounds muffled. A sudden movement caught her eye, a dark silhouette emerging from the mist. "Ma?" Blackwell's presence was unmistakable, his piercing eyes meeting hers with a cold, unwavering intent before he dissolved back into the swirling grey. Her heart hammered, a mixture of fear and defiance rising within her. The path ahead was fraught with shadows and peril, yet Eleanor's resolve hardened. For Henry, for the secrets he left behind, and for the truth hidden within the gears of time, she would face whatever darkness awaited. But as the clocks continued their relentless ticking, Eleanor understood with a sinking certainty that every tick drew her deeper into a web of danger from which there might be no escape. The fog outside was no longer just a veil, it was a harbinger, swallowing the past and future alike, leaving only the precarious present in its grasp. Her journey was only just beginning,